We ready to go? Afternoon, everyone. Hello. Hi, everyone. We wanted to get started with this discussion on grief and loss. It's a complex topic, difficult for us to talk about. I'm sure you'll all be touched by this, and so please take what you need, ask for what you need. We were hoping to share our experience with the massive amounts of grief and loss that we've all seen here in Ottawa. We're with Ottawa Inner City Health, by the way. And we're going to share our experience and then a little bit about what we've done to manage. And then we'd like to open up the space for you also to share how you've been managing as well. To start, we just want to acknowledge the land, the unceded Algonquin territory that we work on every day, Inner City Health, and that we're here today. You have 4 speakers because we all kind of come at this with different lenses, and we're all touched in different ways by the loss that we've all experienced. I'm Amanda Ahmed. I'm a mental health nurse with Inner City Health. I've worked for Inner City for almost 13 years. I kind of grew up with Inner City Health. When I was a student nurse here at the university, I started working for the organization, so I've learned a lot over that time.
Yeah, I'm Kim. I started at Inner City as a mental health nurse. I now work as the mental health team lead for Inner City.
My name is Tabitha, and I'm the program and case management shift lead with Inner City Health. I've been with Inner City since 2019, and I continue to work with this organization because of the community it serves. It's a special place for me, as it's the community I was very much a part of. I'm honored today to be here.
And I'm Sophie Butler. I started about at the beginning of 2021 as a peer worker in the safe consumption site inside the Shepherds of Good Hope. So for those of you not from Ottawa, it is our 24/7 safe consumption site inside of the emergency shelter. I know, right? Very exciting. We also have safe supply that runs out of our consumption site as well. That being said, there is always work to be done. About a year ago, I started working as a case manager there, still within the safe consumption site. And I've been doing it ever since.
That was a really good introduction to part of our program. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what Ottawa Inner City Health is. So we are a nurse-led team, striving to be a peer-led team as well. We have multiple programs, many based within the shelters, but many supportive living programs too. Most of our programs are 24-hour services, and we function with a massive amount of partnerships within the community too, because we couldn't do this work. We're a healthcare organization. We provide holistic, coordinated care, and yeah, we could not do that alone for sure. The one other thing we wanted to acknowledge, just the topic of grief and loss. We're going to be talking about loss of life that we've all experienced, but we recognize that with the people that we serve, they have multiple losses every single day throughout the day. That is also compounded with the loss of friends and family that they experience.
So one of the things when I started with Inner City that I really got taught was to work with people in a different way. So to work where you treat the people that you're caring for as family. And so before the opiate crisis, our work always involved grief, in that the people we work with die at younger ages than they should and have more complex illnesses. And so grief, as being a street nurse, was something that I was familiar with. And then when the opiate crisis hit, we started to lose people at a rate that none of us were familiar with. Yeah. So yeah, I think to say that the people that we work with, you know, when you've been engaging with people over days and months and years, part of why I love the work that I do is getting to walk the streets and become a face on the streets around the shelters downtown. And sometimes it's only because I've been doing it that long that people, you know, now know that I'm a nurse, but I remember, like, it's taken me a long time to kind of have any sort of credibility outside. And I have messed up a lot, and I still mess up a lot. But yeah, I think it was said earlier about when, I think Liz said it about when somebody introduces their friend to you, that you're like, okay, I'm doing something okay. So yeah, I think the level of advocacy we do and should be doing, the number of times that we've had to really, you know, call, just continuously badger people to take care of our clients. The number of times we're like, Simon, please use your power at the hospital to help this person. You know, that, yeah, and the heartbreak that sometimes takes, where you're kind of yelling down the phone at people, like, to literally just see our people. Yeah. And yeah, just working with people for years and knowing people for a long time. And I was saying to Amanda, sometimes, like, having more intimate conversations with our people on a more regular basis than I do with a lot of my family means that when they die, it's really heartbreaking.
At the beginning of the pandemic, I was working as a case manager in our supervised consumption site. During that time, we were a team of 2 people offering a range of services from OHIP help, safer supply, OAT, legal assistance, appointment assistance, financial assistance, really any service users stride towards their harm reduction related goals. All these services came to a halt. With the opening of our COVID-19 isolation center, its mini CTS, and our mobile COVID-19 vaccination on our telespan, the world shut down. With the isolation and the drug supply becoming more toxic, there was an overwhelming response to COVID deaths and so little on the hurricane of opiate deaths. These deaths often are way underreported. We weren't able to connect in the ways we once were, and this was a huge loss, a loss of service, a loss of connection, and a loss in people.
So I'm going to talk a bit about what happened a little after COVID. So about a year ago is when we kind of got the go ahead to be able to have memorial services for the people that we lost. Because it had been about 2 years, there wasn't really a team for this anymore. Nobody quite knew how we were going to do it. So I both got the benefit and unfortunately a bit of the burden of planning it myself. So over those 2 years, we had lost about 100 people. 100 people, both through supportive housing, people that we knew through work, and people that we saw every day. So the video that we had to go with this is kind of just a picture of all of the faces that we had gotten, because I had gotten pictures of everybody who had passed who had it. And with that came another round of grief that I don't know if I was expecting or ready for, because when doing this work is realizing how often these people are forgotten, because they are our friends. We see them every day, but half of them do not have obituaries. Their family is not looking for them. I am the one making the missing persons report. And as workers and people who use drugs, this is a grief and a guilt that we carry every day. If I don't remember them, no one's going to remember them. And that was something I had never been able to put words to until I did this work. And I found myself at home every night being, but what if I forgot someone? And I did, I absolutely did. I can own that so well. The day of, I had people coming up to me and being, can you print this? This is my friend who passed. Can I have a photo of this? I've never had a photo of my friend before. And that was kind of when we noticed a lot of the gaps in how we are dealing with this grief as well. If you go to the next slide.
Is there a way we can play that video?
Yeah, I'll talk a bit about what you'll see in the video too. You will notice there were a lot of flowers. CMHA, very lovely, donated a whole bunch of roses for us so people could put roses in front of their friends' photos. I got ghosted by the priest, but there was supposed to be a priest there. We also had an Indigenous healer who came and sang for us. We had food. It was in our kitchen parking lot because there was nowhere else to have it, especially because it couldn't really be inside. Yeah, those are the people. But it was absolutely overwhelming. It's the system overwhelming. It's individually overwhelming. It is overwhelming for the clients. And a lot of that comes with grief and guilt. When you have to go home at night knowing that somebody you have talked to every single day that you consider a friend, even though technically they're not our friends, they are our clients, but they're our friends. We're not going to sit here and lie about that. Is having to deal with that grief and then come in the next day and coach everybody around you through that same grief and have to put on that working face and be that support. When you are going through it too, it is overwhelming. And then if you want to take days off, it comes with the guilt of, well, what if somebody dies while I am off? What if somebody dies while I am home? Especially considering we work at a 24/7 site. Whenever I am home, my clients are still there. And I found doing this work and not noticing it, again, this is a guilt that I hadn't put words to before I had to do the memorial, is going home and just thinking, who is there? Are they okay? Is the staff there going to be able to handle this? Is there somebody outside that I don't know? And there is nothing I can do about that sitting in my bed, but gosh, if it doesn't stop us from thinking about it. And that was kind of, I want to say, when we as an organization realized that this was something that we had overlooked and it was continuing to get worse and it was not something we could overlook anymore. Both the guilt and grief our clients were feeling and the guilt and grief our coworkers were feeling.
The system just became so overwhelmed. We have a lovely team that runs to overdoses outside the shelter, and at certain points they're running to 14, 15 overdoses outside the CTS. Those aren't including the ones we're reviving inside. It was just like, it just kept coming. The drug supply being super toxic, staff were tirelessly running from overdose to overdose with little room to reprieve. Staff burnout, lack of care, and so many people in need with so little available services, so many unknowns. When will it stop? Will it stop? How do we cope? How do we keep doing this? For so many users, their main way to cope is through substance use. And of the toxic substances, they're more readily available than any other tool for coping. They're right outside the door. This is all there is to offer.
And while we are grappling with this last wave of deaths from a year ago, it actually just somehow got worse. I found that so shocking each day that I came in that it was getting worse. And I'm going to speak about this mostly from the perspective of Ottawa and Shepherds because I can't speak to others, but I am also not so self-absorbed to say that this is probably a trend that you are all seeing in your communities. The dates may be different, the numbers of deaths may be different, but it is a trend we are all facing and seeing. For us, I used to tell when new staff would come in and they were in a wave of death that it is not normally like this. Like, it happens the way that so much that we used to always reference March 2021 at Shepherds for being that particularly bad month. It was a terrible month. I'm not going to lie about it. But we have been going since November now. I said that I had in 2 years, we had lost 100. Since my memorial, we have lost over that. Since last June, we have lost over 100 people in our community alone in supportive housing, on the streets, people we thought had gotten away who did not. We have lost staff members. We have lost peers. to these same violences. And not every single one of them is an overdose, but enough of them are. And each time there is that death, it gets harder and harder to look at the new staff and say, it's not normally like this. It's not normally this bad. Because unfortunately, it really, I know for us, has not stopped since November. We have a death a week, and these deaths are not what you would expect. It used to be we would lose a lot of the new kids, somebody who has just shown up on the block, fresh to Shepherds of Good Hope, where the drug supply is terrible and everybody is on something. And now it is our mainstayers. It is the people we have seen for 10 plus years. It's someone who knows your name and says hello every morning. It's the staff you see every day. And it is becoming more and more overwhelming. And we are now having to almost catch up to that with how we are supporting our staff, which is kind of how the job always goes, is playing catch up. But it's something that we have to acknowledge, is that it used to just be the benzo drugs, and now it's the xylazine, and now it's and. So we want this space to acknowledge that this is fucking overwhelming for anybody, and especially for our clients. And it was already too much loss, and then we lost somebody else. Each day it's almost coming in being like, well, who's it going to be this time? Who's my email going to be from? Who am I going to get the call of? Is it going to be you? I know the senior staff, it's very morbid. We used to make lists of, if this person dies, I'm handing in my 2 weeks. And we would joke about it over drinks. And I have continually crossed names off that list of the people that I thought I would quit when they died. And I am still here, and that list keeps growing, but it gets hard. It gets hard to continue creating these connections when you're looking somebody in the face and going, you could die tomorrow. And I don't know if I can handle that pain today. And that again goes back into the guilt of being the worker, because I don't want to give somebody worse care because I am scared of being hurt. But it is something that you have to recognize and deal with, and also take time and space when you need it. But that is the reality of the job, is to be a good worker, I have to be close to you. But to be close to you, I have to be willing to risk that hurt. And how long are we willing to risk that hurt?
And as the people, the carers are struggling, we have seen the people who use their service struggle just as much. With histories of complex trauma, grief is very complicated, and it looks like people who have pride in their home destroy their home. It looks like massive amounts of fentanyl and meth use. It looks like being extremely distressed and under the influence in the middle of traffic. It looks like, lots of destruction. It looks like completed suicide. It looks like overdose. It looks like more death. As Tabitha mentioned, with such overwhelming loss, people are going back to how they know how to cope. Any other option is just not enough, and people lose even more.
So our clients are experiencing this never-ending cycle of loss, and not just loss of life, loss of their stuff, loss of their bin, loss of their home, loss of their tent, loss of their friends, loss of their drugs, loss of their phone, loss of their fucking ID. It's just never-ending goddamn Groundhog Day. It's a mountain of feelings so big, and it's coupled with a huge lack of motivation to even start. Where do you start? Where can I fucking start? They don't know where to start. And there's no one that could tell them. Everybody's path is different.
And it ends up getting hard as a worker too, because how can I convince you to go with me to go get your health card? Your best friend just died. That is not important to you right now. And I can see the end of the road of getting you the health card, getting you on safe supply, the goals that you want to achieve. But I am also not one to sit here and tell you we have to do it today. But it adds to that complex of they feel stuck, we feel stuck, everybody's dying. I'm trying to get you unstuck before you die. And it is the roadmap to chaos.
And as somebody who was, trying to hire staff and trying to keep people in working and coming to work during that time, it was the challenge of like trying to carry hope of like that this was going to get better, of like this is a really great place to work, and I firmly believe that to be true, carrying the thing of like that we are making meaningful change was hard at times during that. It has been hard through this time.
And you can really see how, you know, the caregivers in this field, we often, like, we see the gaps in our systems, as we talked about. We often use ourselves to fill those gaps, and it's not possible for one person, which is also, you know, related to that conversation of doing it as a collective. But a lot of people, with the overwhelm of guilt, we worked to meet these gaps even more, and we worked harder, and the guilt became toxic. And yeah, lots of people left the field to survive. On top of that, all the loss.
Yeah, so we missed a lot of clients, but we also missed a lot of staff. We lost a lot of friends.
Well, and then it loses trust, right? Just as soon as a client gets close to somebody, that person moves on.
Yeah. So it makes it harder for, yeah.
So we're making some changes as an agency, and I can speak to this one. After watching Sophie go through this extreme length and care that fell on her shoulders to do this first memorial, something had to change. No one person or agency could sustain it alone. We weren't the only agency experiencing this loss within the downtown core. There are more than 10 agencies that all work with the same community, with the same population. So I began first by partnering with another wonderful human being, Jessica from CMHA, who works on the Housing First team. We together have headed a community memorial committee and have added many community partners. From the Royal Ottawa, Belong Ottawa, Shepherds of Good Hope, the Salvation Army, now Sandy Hill. We keep growing every day. We've decided to hold quarterly memorials with the purpose of providing a safe space for staff and clients alike to mourn, grieve, honor, and humanize those from our community who have passed far too soon from tragic circumstances, to provide awareness to the frequent deaths of those people experiencing homelessness, and to especially highlight the opioid crisis to be fueling this rise in deaths. Our first celebration was on January 13th. We had it on Friday the 13th because it was oddly fitting that we were doing such a mass memorial. We memorialized over 26 people, and there were many forgotten on that list. Our second memorial was on April 21st, again with another 26 deaths. The turnout and support was unreal. We had over 150 people at our first one. We had to have multiple services. It was absolutely beautiful to see the community come together and be able to share that space and grief. The plan is to provide this consistency so that we can be able to honor the obscene amount of loss in a more manageable way.
Something else that we are, Inner City Health has really kind of grown. During COVID, we grew in a really big, really quick way. And so before COVID, we had a kind of informal, but it worked way of doing debriefs and then during COVID, that really just was not happening. And so we're kind of in the process now as an organization of really figuring out how to do debriefs well, and making sure, because we are a 24/7 organization, that we're meeting the debrief needs of our different, of all, you know, days, evenings, and overnights. And also how to do this with the people we care for well. Amanda's been running grief groups with people in some of our supportive housing programs, and yeah, so just I think I was talking with Melissa at CMHA today. Like I think this is still something that we are need some help with, of how to do this well, because there's not enough mental health supports for our staff or the people we care for to be able to continue doing this work?
One of the supportive housing units that I work at had a particular awful amount of loss in a shorter time. And as Simon mentioned earlier, when people experience a loss, when they live as a group, people are impacted in all different ways. And we could see some of those complicated grief reactions happening. And I wanted to offer something to support the group as a community in that house. And so I partnered with one of the assistant managers at Shepherd's who run the building, and we offered a space to kind of develop this group with the clients who would come. And they had very specific requests. They wanted, culturally appropriate food. They wanted culturally appropriate, like craft materials. They wanted consistency. That was very clear. One of the Indigenous women who I've known for 10 years, she was very clear in saying, I think this is important. I like this idea, but I want you to make sure that you run it even if I don't show up. And that was really, really important. And I think we've talked about that over the 2 days that we've been together, so that we need to continue to offer the consistent care. And she actually did show up a few times, not every time, but I always think of that message, because she says, I'm the one that's struggling. Now that I know that you're going to offer this is going to be one of my personal goals to attend. And I might not be able to attend it every time, but it's something that I'm going to work on. And so that was very powerful to hear that. And I have to say, this is still very new. It's less of a group than it is drop-in, because people come 1 to 2 at a time. But for sure, people have connected with safer care in that offering, and that just having that space, just naming that and allowing that to happen.
Prior to the pandemic, a lot of the work that I did was try and help people get into treatment when they wanted it. But oftentimes treatment is not, they want housed privileged youth. At the end of the day, that's who fits their mandate. That's the easiest person to get in. And our people on the street are dying on the wait lists. They can't make those calls. They can't do those check-ins. When you use drugs, isn't a personal immediate gratification. When I want to quit drugs, I'm going to get help 6 years from now. So I'm proud to have been able to partner with Rita Wood and start a group at the shelter. There's no intake process. It's taster treatment. Come as you are. You want to change, you don't want to change. Who's to say somebody who uses drugs doesn't deserve life skills? So we call it the Triple H Club, the health, healing, and harm reduction. It truly is my baby. Like I said, it runs 2 days a week. There's no intake process. It's very pre-contemplation stage of change. Gives people opportunity to come in, have a safe space. It doesn't cost a house toke to come in. It's, it's a safe space for everybody. It starts on time, it ends on time, and it provides that consistency. It's there for whenever they want. We started with a 10-week pilot project with lots of interest. And so it's exciting. We've had our contract renew, and we're in the process of expanding to a supportive housing.
We talked about supervision earlier, and we've been fortunate at Inner City Health to have Simon run a monthly supervision session for the nurses. I have to say, I don't think it's enough. I pay for my own individual supervision to see a supervision model available to all frontline workers, because it's so valuable.
And then one other kind of change that happened with the pandemic is Inner City partnered with the University of Ottawa on a research project. And out of that research project came Soul Space. And so we have been, Inner City has kind of now taken a bit of money every year and put that towards our different care providers. So our peers, our RPNs, our nurses being able to go to soul space events. So things like going to pottery, going to a weekend retreat, and what people have talked about with that is just having some space and some time away from work to connect with each other, with their coworkers, and often I think with themselves, as a place to kind of regroup and find themselves again after the last couple of years.
I've been lucky enough to have been able, so this year it's been a big part of Inner City is that we're going to invest in our staff and in our peers for different trainings and different options to get together and kind of share through Soul Space. And I've been lucky enough to been able to have some additional management training techniques through a wonderful agency called Connection Matters. They've been able to help me pick up the tools that I already had, but be able to practice them and geared towards coaching and supporting my staff. It makes me even better team player.
This was a quote. I'm a big Rupi Kaur fan. She's a woman who survived childhood trauma, but she has a lot of beautiful poetry about kind of going through trauma, but then also the healing process. And this was something I really identified with this quote about finding that balance of between keeping our softness and our strength to be able to do this work. So how do we carry on? Vicki Reynolds is one of our heroes, and she talks about the importance of collective care and to be able to do this work, that we need our team, we need each other, that we need to be able to build honest, resilient teams. So I think the hopefulness in being able to connect with each other. And so, yeah, I think we just wanted to open it up to the floor now about kind of how to give some space for, we've had 2 days together to kind of talk and bond and get to know each other. And so how are other people continuing on? Are other places, are you doing this really well? Do you have things to share of how your team is being able to do this work that we can all learn from? So
I wonder if we could take, like, just at your tables, maybe take a few minutes to either write something down or share with each other, and then you can share it with all of us if you like. Thank you.
We originally wanted a big circle, but there's just a few too many tables for that. No, that's okay. No, fucking go for it. No, how fucking dare the rude person? Like, I'll go out and yell at him, and then I'll come back. I got a good yelling voice. They're not my clients, so they might actually think I'm scary. Did it go all right? You guys are great.
I know.
We're working. Just be standing up here. They don't know that I'm soft. They don't have to know. They don't gotta know I cry when I get mad.
Even if we had everything, I don't know if we would have saved.
Exactly. And I think it was Dean, and I was thinking about it because I was going to write it in my side notes. I was going to talk about it. I think actually it was something else. Other medical emergency.
That's the problem too.
Is that we don't get to know.
yeah, but that's a big systemic.
Yes, we don't get to know.
We need inquests.
Like,
Would anybody like to share?
Yeah. Thank you for being brave.
Hello. Thanks again. I also wanted to say thank you for your work with our folks who having the memorial really matters. And a lot, like for us working at the drop-in centers, 454, St. Luke's, and the Well, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know otherwise. So thank you. We were just talking about how we're not there yet. We've started. We're trying to still foster space for staff and for everybody to have time to talk about things that are happening throughout our day and losing people. So just recognizing that we still have a lot of work to do.
Thank you.
Us too, it's far from perfect. That's the thing, right? And I think by having this community memorial committee like Belong Ottawa is now a part of, we're always looking for other community partners. And by being a part of a committee like this, we can better advocate for ourselves as staff and better advocate for space for clients to just provide that consistency, right? Even though like you may not get as many clients. I had a lot of people come last time and be like, I'm just going to grab memorial cards. I can't stay. I'm not ready for this. And that's okay. We keep offering, having the Royal there available to talk. Hasn't been a hit yet, but I think if we continue to provide that consistency, it'll continue to grow. It's that space. I find consistency is a big part in trust, is that you're going to be there regardless if somebody shows.
Sure, so I'll speak a bit to what we're doing. So in the last year, and this started well before COVID, well before the opioid epidemic and the current, I guess, crisis that we're in with so many people dying, is that there's been a strong push from our staff at CMHA for clinical supervision, just due to the nature of the work that we do and the intensity of it. And so over the last, I guess, 8 months, year, we've had Dr. Karen Sewell from Carleton, who specializes in clinical supervision, coming in and training all the managers. It hasn't been specific to supporting staff through deaths. So I find that, well, one, personally, I half the time feel like I'm floundering when somebody comes to me to talk about a client death, and it's been one after another and after another recently. So it's something that I'm really trying to bring back to the other managers I work with, and like, how can we have more of a cohesive approach? How can we support each other? And I know I've been like trying to pull out and read as much literature as I can, because it's like the type of work we do, I find there isn't a lot of literature on clinical supervision in particular to outreach work and street mental health work. Like there's this big gap. If anyone needs a PhD project, actually, it's probably be really interesting. But it does really feel like we're flying by the seat of our pants, or maybe that's how I feel, because this isn't something that you get trained at in your MSW program. Like you're not taught about grief, you're not taught about clinical supervision, and so it does really feel like trying to pull. And I'm really excited to talk to Kim about the work you're doing. And anyway, so we're trying a few things, and I don't think we're near there yet, and it's not good enough yet.
Hey, we within our street medicine team participate in, in the States, the National Healthcare for the Homeless Council celebrates at the winter solstice a memorial, and at the summer solstice a celebration of all the good things from the year. We have found for our team that like you all, we needed to have more frequent memorials, but also more frequent celebrations. And that we needed to have the memorials, even if we participated in memorials with other organizations and other people, we also found that we needed to have them just within our team for us. And similarly, we do the celebrations that way too. But I think it sometimes feels like the celebrations don't begin to outweigh the loss, but that it's really important and it takes a step towards doing.
Which is a good point, because it's something we brought up when we were talking about this, is that I know all of us working in this field are constantly telling ourselves that we are in it for the small wins because the losses are so big, and we say it every day. And I do believe it, and that is why I'm there every day. But when you are sitting alone at home in the shower and you're really thinking about it, you're like, fuck, those wins are small, and damn, those losses are big. Like, I gave you shoes today and your brother died. Like, that doesn't even begin to compare. It just can't. So I feel like that's why we started doing a lot of those things, is that you cannot live on small wins alone, and they are worth celebrating and they are worth talking about. I think we'd even at one point talked about trying to make a good newsletter where every month we send one email of just the good things that have happened in our people's lives, so that there is something to celebrate. Because again, we all know it. We live on the small wins, but fuck if they do not add up. I'm sorry, I also swear a lot, so. We're just kind of talking like as a group discussion about what people are doing, what they want to see more of, like
Within their agency, dealing with the loss and how we celebrate those lives and kind of organize that.
and also just like sharing the grief together, because nobody gets it like we're going to get it. Your therapist is going to tell you to quit your jobs, and your friends and family say, well, how do you do that? I couldn't imagine. And that doesn't help anybody. So that win.
I don't remember.
Hi, I'll go. I think one of the biggest things for me in dealing with the grief was that prior to COVID, of course, things felt sort of siloed between partners. And COVID really solidified a lot of those silos and put up the walls even higher. And I think in the last year or so, the work and having to deal with the tremendous amount of loss and grief, really eliminating those barriers and breaking down the walls between partners to collaborate and find support between one another so that we can be most effective and most present for the people we support has been really helpful in the work that I do. So partnerships and collaboration are really big for me.
I can just only speak about what I do as a supervisor with my team. I supervise case managers who work in the front line with substance use and addiction. And so one of the things that I have done, and we've always believed in collective care with our intensive case management, just because of the work that we do, we can't do it alone, is that every staff that we onboard, including community workers, that we start with a safety plan. And that safety plan is then shared with the entire team at a team meeting. We do that every 6 months to a year, that we redo our safety plans. And those safety plans include Things like what are your triggers? What do you want to know? How do you take care of yourself? How can the team help you take care of yourself? Does that involve text messaging? What kind of words do you like to not hear? All that sort of stuff. It's pretty quite a long sheet. It's 8 questions. And then if in that safety plan, we also talk about client death, how you want to be notified, how you would like to hold a tribute, what kind of tributes you want to do. And then it's also very individualized. We've always held a tribute for when people have passed on our team. We've always held a moment of silence that has been going on for 12 years. It became way too rote in the past 2 years because we started losing more than 3 clients a year. So we've now changed that up that I actually asked the case manager or the community worker how they want to pay tribute to the person that has passed, and we do that as a team. And now we're also holding like a celebration of life for those who want to come, if that's what they want to do, to pay tribute to them at the center. We do that only for the people that are working there, just because there also sometimes needs to have that space for them to have the grief. I've had a lot of case managers not want to go to the memorial or go to memorials just because of that, because it's becomes, as somebody else talked about, they then again are taking care of other people and they need to take care of their own grief. And it's a really fine balance for that. I think as a supervisor, it is absolutely my job to make sure that my team is doing okay during these times. And it's just, you're right, it's just getting worse. So it's constantly looking for ways to have collective care and to lessen the trauma for that. And we also do a lot of clinical supervision, and we now are providing clinical supervision for the supervisors as well, just because there needs to be that level up. So.
Hello. So we're talking about how we cope with losses within our agencies, right? So some of the things something I realized after losing so many youth to overdoses and such is something that helps me kind of like get closure is when the team and management and the system is able to acknowledge and take accountability for in what ways we failed them. And I've been able to heal a little bit when everybody takes accountability, not just acknowledging of what went wrong, but like how can we improve? And I want to see change in policies to to reduce preventable things, right? Like we need to learn. Maybe it's my need to like have every death be not all for nothing. At least the very least, so we can take away like what went wrong and what we could do better. That helps me heal from the losses a little bit. It doesn't completely take away the pain, but you know, at least it's better than nothing.
Thank you for sharing. I wanted to just add to that one of our supportive housing programs lost, I think it was 6 years ago that they lost their first person to an overdose. And out of that and how to manage this same kind of message about, you know, we can't let him have died for nothing. We have to do something. So the residents that lived in this building, they came together and created their own peer system of doing safety checks on like a rotating basis. And they still do that today. We have them on salary now, and they come still every single day. And when you ask them, they really feel like it helps them manage their grief and their loss, because then they can do something about it. And it kind of changes that loss and that pain into something that is kind of motivating and hopeful. And you know, running this grief group for residents of this building, people have all sorts of reasons why they don't want to come. And I think one of the reasons is when things are so painful, it's like not safe to talk about that kind of pain. So I started offering like themes of how you stay positive or how you celebrate the people that are alive, incorporating like songs that help you stay positive, things like this. And I find that really brings people out, because we're all like experiencing the same kind of pain, but in order to go forward, we also have to focus on the positive that still is there.
And I also want to say, I think that's a good practice as someone who does not do that, because I know like after like a lot of major deaths, especially like again, like going over this wave that I know, again, I'm not saying that it's not happening elsewhere, but in Ottawa has been pretty unrelenting since November, like again, at least a death a week minimum. I would often go home and be like, this is fucking overwhelming. Nothing I do feels like it's changing. I got you housed and you died in your housing. I got you safe supply, you died of an overdose tomorrow. Like being able to take accountability and then also push that accountability on the systems. I think I'm going to try and start doing that and force my lovely manager and team to do that with me, because that would help, especially because you can't change the system alone, but you can take the accountability for the small actions and try and use it as a push forward. I don't know. I just really like what you said.
I also think that like when we don't take accountability, it brings a dishonor onto their deaths because we're lying. We're not being truthful about how it actually went down and how the system just straight up failed them. And I've seen it be not like I've seen it be kind of swept under the rug because people are too egotistic to admit that like I fucked up, we fucked up as a team, we should do better. It's about ego, right? And if we're able to put that aside, like we can learn. We want to hear when you fuck up because that's when we are able to learn and keep more people alive.
So I missed some of your presentation. I'm so sorry. I was dealing with the thing outside. That being said, though, on the grief, I think everyone witnessed me get quite emotional about my kid and what we're talking about in this moment. And I want to put a name to it because it's political deaths, because it's poor policy. Like people are dying because of policy, because of lack of access to hospitals and hospitals taking them seriously. And my kid who died this morning at 3 a.m., who I got phone calls from my staff because their parents weren't there to see them go, but my staff were, right, was found in a park overdosed. She was just turned 15. I need everyone to recognize how messed up that is. I'm certain a lot of you are parents. I'm a parent. I have a 16-year-old. And I'm on the phone with her mom at 3 a.m. this morning. Like, I think these deaths, it's really easy to throw out a number. And when we're talking about grief, what it actually means, but there's no reason a teenager or someone even younger, because I think my youngest death was 8, should be dying in a park by themselves in the middle of the night. It just shouldn't be happening. So I'm tired of the work that's being placed on us, which is what I presented on with lived experience. I'm grieving. We need time to heal. The expectation that we should fight for our salaries and that we should fight for this and for policy change and that we should advocate more and more. Like, how much do you guys want from us? Like a genuine question. Because the knowledge that you guys gain from the lived experience portion of this conference comes at a cost to literally everyone sitting here. And yes, we were paid an honorarium, but I gotta tell you, when I was using substances, that wouldn't have covered even a week of my substance use. I put a lot of money into my substance use. I learned a lot about it and how not to overdose and what not to mix. And if I do overdose, who can bring me back and all that jazz? And I use that. Why is my experience and my knowledge less important than what you guys learn in books and research? Because I've been in those classrooms and half the shit that is taught is wrong anyways. But that's where I'm at with my grief. I just want to be able to grieve my kids and my community and be present with them without having to think about all of the other fights I constantly have to have.
it also comes with the peer workers that not only are we watching our clients die like the rest of you are, we're watching our friends. Like I always say that the clients I am closest with are the ones that I'd be friends with if I was allowed to. I see myself in them. I see my best friend from years as somebody who used drugs. I see them using the drugs that I used and then going to work and being like, all my friends are dead and having to just continue. So it's that feeling. It's that lived experience part of it too. It is what makes me so fucking good at my job. And it is also what makes it so fucking hard to do, is that we care about these people honestly more than I care about some of the people I've known my entire life. They are people who know more, who I spend more time with, talk to every day. And that was, I know, part of why we had to change as Inner City the way we handled the death, is because the people we were losing was, one of them was the guy who has known my name since my first shift. Doesn't know anybody's name, always knew mine. And it was fucking hard. And going in the next day and taking care of everybody was fucking hard. And that's what we wanted to talk about, and why we wanted to have this group, is because you can't sit there and say that to your family, because they're going to tell you to quit, because it's not worth the pain, it's not worth the whatever, but we're good at it. We are all great at this job. That is why we are in it. I don't want that to be discounted just because us being sad about the grief or the loss means that we aren't strong enough, because we so are. We have spent our entire lives being strong. As people who use drugs, it's the only way we survive, is by just being fucking strong and dealing with all the stuff. And I am so tired of being strong. And I'm sure everybody echoes that feeling. We are tired of just having to be strong through it all. So we all need to change and do better. Inner City is trying, but we can always do more. And I hope that things like this can continue forward, so that we can continue having these moments where we can all at least acknowledge that we can be sad for like 5 minutes in this odd conference room at Ottawa U, because it can't be sad on the block. Today is sad because my friends are dead.
Thank you. The part about being strong that sucks so much is that we're not being paid well enough to be as strong as we fucking are. That also needs to change. And that ceiling, the worth of all of the work that we're doing, is just as important as a guy with or a doctor who can write a prescription. Pay us. Give us your money. Not joking. Yeah. You're sleeping. Right?
You
It's
can't.
fucking,
The thing is, you can't. There's no fucking possible.
There is no way.
You can't. And trying to do that and trying to fill all of those gaps, and all those gaps that we see in the social services, all the gaps when somebody gets privately housed, they don't fit my fucking mandate anymore, but I still want to help them. All those gaps are going to make me go fucking insane, right? But it's conferences like this. This is its first annual. And we have people here with lived experience, and we have a peer movement, and we have to get in touch across the way and continue this and continue to share insight and learn and grow from each other. That's the only way it's going to change. No one person can do it themselves. You can't advocate to make everybody's wages different for each province, and everybody gets healthcare and everybody gets more than $1,000 for a psychotherapist and this and that. It's just, we have to move at a turtle's pace, and we have 100%. To do it collectively together. And it has to be everybody. We are all people. We are all humans. Everybody in this room, doctor, nurse, lawyer, chief, anything, and all of the people on the street, we're all humans at the end of the day. We all cut and bleed red.
Sorry, we picked like the saddest fucking topic as one of the last ones to close this conference. I just wanted to say that. We really chose this one well. But at the end of the day, this is all fucking important to talk about, because We are in environments at work where we can't. I talk the most about death on my fucking smoke breaks. I just want to smoke. I just want to be outside and smoke and make dumb jokes, but I have to stand there and talk about all the ways that this is hard, because where else can we talk about that? And that's why things like debriefs, having those oversights, having the memorials, like giving this immense amount of grief a space to just live, to just be fucking sad people together. I think that's why I love that our memorials are with our clients so much, is because then I get to cry with you. And you can see, I have so many guys tell me, it doesn't matter if I kill myself, nobody's gonna fucking care anyway. And that was my driving force before the first memorial, is because at the end of the day, I could point to it and go, that's how much I care. That's it. That's your proof. If you wanna look at me and tell me I'm not gonna care, we fucking care. And I know it is not enough. I know it does not make up for the systems, but it's about telling each other, telling our people, telling the whole fucking world that somebody cares. This is not a statistical death. This isn't just another person to a system failure. This is a fucking person, and we loved them and we miss them, and that is okay. So I am glad that we all got to sit here and talk about this and be sad and be angry, because we have to. If we didn't, we'd be bad at our jobs. Got a lot of feelings.
So we're gonna take a 10-minute break, and then the conference will end. We'll have a closing remarks, and then, yeah. Oh yeah.
We'll just
Then
kill
it's
that.
We just killed the thing.